All right, welcome back. So glad you could join us for another deep dive. We're picking up right where we left off last time, delving deeper into the world of Tkinter. If you've been with us, you'll remember we were exploring child windows, using Toplevel, adding those extra rooms onto our main Tkinter application.
Exactly.
But I have a feeling you're ready to go further.
Right.
Like, okay, I've got these separate windows,
Yeah.
but how do they actually talk to each other?
That's a great question. It's one thing to create separate windows, but the real power comes when they can share information. Imagine a multi-room house where no one can talk between rooms. Not very functional.
Exactly. So how do we get these Tkinter windows talking? Like, how could a child window, say, send info back to the main window?
Okay, well imagine this. You have a child window where the user types in their name.
Okay,
To get that name back to the main window, you need a way to share data between them. That's where this concept of what we call a string var comes in.
string by.
It's like a bridge, allowing both windows to access and modify the same information.
Okay, I'm kind of seeing it. So the string var is like holding the information. But how do we actually, like, trigger the transfer? How does the name actually move from child to parent?
Good question. Think of it like sending a letter. The string var is the envelope, right?
Okay, the envelope. Got it.
We need someone to carry it between windows, and in Tkinter, we can use a button click as our messenger.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
When the user clicks a button in that child window, we can grab the name they entered, use that .get method, put it in our string var envelope.
So the child window packages it up, sends it off with the button click. What happens next?
Well, since the parent window is also connected to that same string var, it's instantly notified when the envelope's contents change.
Oh, I see.
It's like it's been waiting by the mailbox. Soon as that name arrives, it can grab it, do something with it, like update a label to display a personalized greeting.
Now that's what I call communication. The parent window has a direct line to what's happening in the child window. But what if we want to go the other way? Like, the parent needs to send info or instructions to the child.
Absolutely. Let's say the parent window has a setting, maybe for the user's preferred language. When we create the child window, we can grab that language setting you see from the parent and use it to customize the child window. Maybe its appearance, its behavior.
So the child window is born with some personalized instructions from its parent. I like it. Starting to see how powerful this can be. But are we limited to just sending, like, plain text back and forth? Could we do more complex things like choices from a drop-down menu?
You're thinking along the right lines. It's not just about text. Any ticker widget that holds a value can potentially share that value with another widget, even across different windows. For example, imagine a child window with a drop-down menu, a combo box. User selects their favorite color.
Yeah.
We could send that color choice back to the parent, use it to, say, change the background color of the main window.
Wow, so the windows are having a real conversation now, not just one-way communication. It's a real exchange. Opens up some interesting possibilities.
It certainly does. But before we get too carried away, let's take a quick pause here, let everything sink in. When we come back, we'll explore even more advanced techniques, really make your Tkinter windows truly interactive.
Welcome back. Great to have you with us as we delve deeper into Tkinter. Let's quickly recap what we've got so far. We've been exploring how our Tkinter windows can actually talk to each other. Move beyond those isolated windows and get them interacting.
Right, like we've given our Tkinter apps a voice, letting different parts have a conversation. We saw how a simple string var can be that bridge carrying info back and forth.
Exactly. And remember, things like button clicks, those can trigger the data transfer, making it all seamless for the user. We talked about different types of widgets joining the conversation too. Not just text boxes, but drop-down menus, sliders, all sorts of things, sharing data. It's funny, I was working on a project recently where I needed a slider to control the display of a number. And this whole concept of the shared variable, it was like a light bulb moment. Suddenly, I could connect those two widgets and make them work together.
I love those aha moments. It's all about understanding how to link those widgets through that shared variable. You get that instant synchronized update. Remember the spin box and the scale example? Change one, the other updates right away. Really user-friendly.
Exactly. Two sides of the same coin, even though they look and behave differently. And we even saw how this isn't just for simple values. We can pass more complex things, like lists of items, even custom objects we create.
That's where it gets really interesting. Passing simple values is one thing, but when you start working with those complex data structures, you have to think about packaging that information for transfer between windows. Things like serialization come into play, converting the data into a transmittable format.
So it's like giving our Tkinter windows a whole new language. We're moving beyond basic conversation into, like, complex negotiations.
That's a great way to put it. As you build more sophisticated applications, you need to think about how your windows are going to exchange that richer information. It's like building a whole communication network within the application.
It's amazing to think that with a few lines of code, we can turn separate windows into a collaborative team. But before we get too deep into the advanced stuff, maybe we should zoom out a bit. We've talked about individual windows talking, but what if we have multiple child windows all needing to interact?
Fantastic question. And that leads us to some powerful Tkinter concepts. It's like going from a simple phone call to a full-blown conference call. Multiple parties need to be coordinated. And the good news is Tkinter is up to the challenge.
Okay, you've got me intrigued. How do we manage all these different conversations happening at once? Seems like things could get messy fast.
That's where a solid understanding of Tkinter's event handling system comes in. By using techniques like custom events and callback functions, we can create a system where each window knows exactly what to do when it receives a message. It's like setting up clear communication protocols so everyone's on the same page.
So, less about sending random messages, more about a structured dialogue. This is starting to feel like we're building a whole communication infrastructure within our application.
You're getting it. And just like any well-designed infrastructure, it takes careful planning, a solid understanding of the tools. But the payoff is huge. Applications where multiple windows work together seamlessly, responding to user actions, updating each other in real time.
It's amazing how Tkinter can handle this level of complexity. But all this talk of communication networks is making my head spin a little. Time for a quick breather, maybe. When we come back, we'll wrap things up and think about what we've learned about the true power of Tkinter. Okay, I'm back. I gotta say, still processing everything from that last segment. We went from creating simple windows to building like these intricate communication networks in our Tkinter apps. It's like a whole new level of interactivity unlocked.
It really is. When you start seeing your Tkinter windows as active participants in a bigger system, it just opens up so many possibilities.
You know, I keep thinking back to that house analogy. At first, we were just focused on the rooms. Now it's like we're thinking about the hallways, the staircases, all those connections, and how the rooms interact.
I like that. And just like a well-designed house, a good Tkinter application needs a clear plan for information flow. Which windows need to talk? What types of messages are they sending? How will those messages trigger actions in other parts of the app?
It's like planning the wiring before the drywall goes up. You don't think about it early on, you're going to have problems later.
Exactly. And a well-wired house, a Tkinter app with a good communication strategy, is going to be so much more robust, reliable, and easier to maintain. Not just making things work, but making them work well.
This whole deep dive has really changed how I see Tkinter. It's not just about arranging widgets and buttons anymore. It's about how all those pieces work together, creating a truly interactive experience for the user.
Absolutely. When you master data transfer in Tkinter, you're not just building interfaces, you're creating dynamic systems. Every action has a consequence. Different parts can respond to each other, to the user's input.
So, as we wrap up, what's the one key takeaway you'd want our listeners to remember?
I'd say embrace the power of communication.
Yeah.
Don't see your Tkinter windows as isolated things. Think of them as active members of a team, working together to create that cohesive, engaging user experience.
Fantastic advice. And to all our listeners, keep experimenting, keep pushing those boundaries. Don't be afraid to try new things. You never know what amazing Tkinter creations you'll come up with.
Happy coding, everyone. Until next time.